Alright, hello everybody. We are K.A.T.S, stands for Kinect Assisted Teaching Software. My name is Cosentino.
I'm Caducio.
I'm Ryan Wood.
I'm Ryan Cat.
First thing we'd like to start off with is our project purpose. What we did was we created an application to assist children learn their basic shapes and colors. The initial intent was to help children with disabilities as well as young children in their early developmental stages, ages 3 to 7. The primary disability that we focus on for right now for this particular part of the project was autism, although we did leave the program with the ability to accommodate other disabilities. So what is K.A.T.S? K.A.T.S is a Kinect-based application. As you can see, this is the Microsoft connector here, specific for Windows computers. And it's going to help, we believe, help young children quickly learn the shapes and colors, specifically children who have difficulty communicating with people. The target audience that we have for this is both parents and teachers. Parents being, especially those with children who have disabilities, a lot are looking for different tools and things that they can use to give their children that extra supplemental learning that they might not get in school. And for teachers, we actually have some built-in statistical tracking. We have graphs, and we'll go into some more detail on that later on, of what we track and how we track it, to give them a good gauge if the students are progressing or if they're regressing, or just an overall way to see how much the program is actually assisting the students.
We made a short video to kind of commercial, showing everybody exactly what our product is doing.
Hi guys, my name's K.A.T.S.
And we'll further explain the modes later on in the presentation. The product has many features. There's multiple playing modes, which will be explained later. There's sandbox and journal mode. One has the statistical tracking, the other is more of a free play mode. There's statistical tracking and graphing. There's multiple class and user storage. We actually use the Access database that stores multiple classes and then students under those classes so that a teacher can track over a period of time. There's full audio output. Tells the student everything that they're doing. The graphical output of statistics, which is through the mode, you can choose a student and it'll show you progressively over time how the student is progressing with the project. Then the full integration of the Kinect, using the Kinect cameras and also the audio that comes with the Kinect.
For statistical tracking, we employ two different types of graphing. One graph is to show their average time to get the correct answer on a given day over any number of days, and then the second graph is to do the percentage that they got, which would be the number of guesses relative to the number of questions that they actually were asked, and that gives a percent where it's the maximum for that is out of 100. And then each graph propagates whenever a new teacher is selected and shows their whole class, or whenever a student is selected to show just how that specific student is doing. The graphs show for each different level of difficulty that our program has. And it stores multiple class rosters, so that way if, like, let's say it's offered in one school, you can see how your class is doing relative to another class and gauge if there's any extra teaching that needs to be done outside of the use of the program or anything like that.
So these are the two user modes. Pretty much there's sandbox mode, which is more of a learning mode. It's free play. It doesn't direct the student exactly what to pick or what to choose as far as shape or color. Just lets them acquaint themselves with the colors and shapes. There's no statistical tracking on this. It's all just they put their hand over the shape and it tells them what shape and color it is. The journal mode has 3 difficulty levels: easy, medium, and hard. Easy has static shapes and colors that don't change. Medium, it actually keeps the shape and color acquainted, but it alters where the shapes are. With hard, it actually changes the shape and color position, so where the shapes are at will actually alter after so many turns. And then all the statistical tracking and graphing is included within the journal mode.
Alright, so for the Kinect, it has some pretty specific requirements. It does have to be a Windows 7 system. It does have to have USB 2.0 as a minimum requirement, and it does have to have 2 gigabytes of RAM. The processor does have a dual core. It does say here that 266 is the minimum requirements. It's not that specific, actually. I ran it on something that's a little bit lower on that. It runs just fine. So the Kinect sensor itself has 3 cameras, the tilt motor and the microphone array. We don't use the tilt motor or the microphone array. The main camera is the color sensor. That works just like a regular camera, just like a video camera. There's nothing spectacular about it. But the 2 other cameras are really the big thing. This one right here registers the infrared that gets emitted from this camera. And it can use that to track depth from how far away you are from the camera, just like your eye does. So really with those 2 together, you can track depth and position in a 3D environment. So programming for the Kinect, there's a lot of built-in functions. It's very, very easy to get started with, but it can very easily become complicated. The SDK has been released. It was released on February 1st, the SDK that we use for the commercial. It comes with the API. The API has all the built-in calls you need for the Kinect. So you can call and it'll tell you if there's a skeleton that it's able to track, and then you can get the X, Y, and Z coordinates of that skeleton. In our case, we track your left and right hand, but the camera is always tracking the total skeleton, and it can track up to 6 skeletons. I'm actually going to skip all frames ready for a moment. The skeletal tracking, like I just said, it tracks up to 6 skeletons. It follows all the tracking based on at least 2 joints, and there's 17 possible joints it can track. Head, shoulders, elbows, wrists, knees, hip has 3 joints in it, and I think it can track 2. The All Frames Ready event is actually, this can do polling or event driven, and we have ours done as event driven. There's a couple of different events. In our case, we're using All Frames Ready. What that does is it says the color camera runs at a certain frames per second, and the depth camera runs at a certain frames per second. Every time they sync up, so they're showing the exact same picture, then it'll call the All Frames Ready event and will allow us to do any of the actions that we want. And then, like I said, there's other modes, like you can do the cameras independent.
For future enhancements for this, we have looked into possibly new modes, such as teaching simple counting or math, as well as teaching alphabet or reading. And then we're also looking for further improvements, such as speech, improving the voice so it's more humanized and more friendly to the children, as well as clearer speech, so that it doesn't sound so animatronic. And then improving the statistical tracking based upon any requirements of the end user group that actually ends up wanting to use it. And then we have, we've sought some actual information from teachers throughout the course of the project. And then we're now going to go on to our demo.
Alright, so we're going to start with sandbox mode, just to give you an idea of how that works. So go ahead and create a student.
So we're going to go through and add a student. When you click add a student, it pulls up a window that looks like this. And then you go through, and you select what teacher you want the student to be in. So we're going to put the student into Professor Singh's class. Then you type the student's name. And so we're going to do Johnny Test, and then add the student. The student propagates, and you can go through and select Professor Singh, and the student shows up right there. and then you can go in through test and select sandbox mode, and that'll start the play and learning mode.
Hi, Johnny. My name is Louis. Move me over a button so I can't tell you what it is.
So say we don't know what this shape is over here. So
Red heart.
Oh, it's just falling left hand. That's just something I'll show you later. So we want to know what the
Red
shape
heart.
is.
Blue diamond.
So as the
Green
kids
triangle.
playing, this is meant just to teach them their colors and shapes. So there's nothing
Orange
spectacular.
circle.
They get curious, they figure out
Purple
what
square.
it is, tells them what it is. What you saw earlier is it has left-hand tracking. So if the student's left-handed, it'll do whichever hand is closer, but if they're on the same level, it prioritizes right hand. But
Yellow
same
star.
actions.
Orange circle. Red heart.
Go ahead and switch that. So like I said, sandbox mode is all about teaching the student. It's done with just curiosity teaching. There's no direction. They just play with it, move bluey around, which is our circular face that follows your hand.
It's going through and closing the camera currently, and then it goes through and it pulls up back to the same window. And you can go through and select student again, any student you'd like. We're going to select Ryan this time so we can actually do a difficulty. We're going to actually demonstrate him on hard. As you can see, he's got multiple different levels of information already stored in. So I'm going to go through and put him into hard mode.
Hi, Ryan. Louis here. In 5 seconds, I will give you a color or shape to find.
Let's see if I can do this.
Hi, Ryan. Please find the purple shape. Correct. Please wait while I give you
It's an
another
angle
color
here.
or shape to find. Hi, Ryan. Please find the purple shape.
So it runs,
Correct.
it's 100%
Please wait
randomized.
while
It
I
doesn't
give you
store the
another color or
previously
shape to
selected
find.
shape. So
Hi,
it is possible
Ryan.
to get shapes
Please
that are
find
in
the
order.
heart. Correct. Please wait while I give you another color or shape to find. Hi, Ryan.
Green.
Please find the green shape.
I believe this is the 5th shape. On the 5th shape, when it's selected, so every 5 rounds, it'll,
Correct.
okay,
Please
one
wait
more. I missed
while I
one.
give you another color
It
or
will
shape to find.
re-randomize the colors and shapes.
Hi, Ryan. Please find the circle. Correct.
There you go.
Please wait
And
while
it'll
I
do
give
that
you
every 5
another
rounds.
color or shape
Currently,
to
it's
find.
set up to
Hi,
infinitely go
Ryan.
through this until the teacher's
Please find the
decided
star.
enough time has gone by. But as a future addition, we were discussing adding the ability to set how many rounds the student actually plays. And that is,
And
any
then
questions?
Well, just to show, we can go through and actually see the new development for what Ryan has done. Initially, he started off with just the one stat. Now he has stats for today, and his stats for today are he has approximately 3.7 or 3.9 seconds to get the right answer for a shape. And then it took him, hard to follow with the mouse over there. He had 100% for his shape and color for his shapes. For colors, he's got 3 days worth of data. And for color, he has approximately 5 seconds to answer today. And then his percent for color has stayed constant at 100.
Go ahead and show them your class.
I've tested this over the course of probably a week with a bunch of different people. And as you can see with mine, it goes through and I have 5 days worth of data for, I think there's something like 14 or 15 people that I've actually tested with mine. And this is their average time or percentage per given day throughout the course of the testing. So, I mean, and I tested almost all of them pretty much solely on hard mode because most of them already had some foreknowledge, so there was no reason to test them on a lower one. So, I mean, this is what it looks like as you get 5 days, and then we can adjust it so, like, let's say you only want to see the previous week or something like that, we can set it up so they can do that as well.
Any questions?
If you do notice too, originally, as you can see, this was meant for younger children, and the speech synthesizer that we currently have right now is obviously not the most optimal for it. Unfortunately, we had to use the system voice. It's kind of a cost constraint for us because any of the voice packages that we were able to find were extremely expensive. There's some really good ones out there that sound just about as human as a person speaking, but those ranged in several $100 to purchase. So we unfortunately were stuck with using the Microsoft Anna voice for this implementation.
Yes?
Did you test this with young children?
Yes, we have. I've tested it with my niece and a bunch of her friends. We've tested it with the child that you saw in the actual commercial, as well as a few other kids with that group. So we've tested with younger children, and then we've also tested it with older children just to see how it would be received with just any age group as opposed to just a limited constrained age group.
The particular child in the video was 4. He's a friend of mine, her son. So he was within the age range that we're looking to test, and he actually did very well. I actually tested with 2 4-year-olds. Well, my nephew, he did really well, and then the particular one that we have in the video, he can't hear the video because we had to edit out the sounds. There's a lot of background noise, but in there it was talking to him, and he, for the most part, unless he couldn't hear it, we had to. When that video was taken, we didn't have the timing 100% right, where the speech was really fast. So if it was loud in there and he didn't hear it, he'd have trouble with it. But when he was able to hear the instructions, he was able to pick the right shape and color out.
What happens when you pick the wrong shape?
You do get a tone. Right now we wanted to limit any real negative feedback. So we have it just, you'll get a note, like the music note that it makes when it's correct, letting you know that it's been selected, but you don't get any confirmation until you select the correct.
We try to avoid negative reinforcement, so it's all positive. So they only are informed when they get the correct answer. Any other questions?
You work with some requirements, obviously, did you involve some educators or somebody who works with autistic students?
Actually, Dr. Blair is a professor here. She's a professor of music education. We kind of bounced ideas off her. There was actually one of her biggest ideas we did not put into this, mainly because of time. We were going to, instead of the tone you hear is the same tone throughout, and one of her ideas was because autistic kids can usually associate tones a little bit easier than certain shapes, we were going to have different notes for each particular shape. That one didn't come in because of time, but that is also part of the future enhancement that we would like to do. As for autistic children using it, in her case, she just kind of guided us through, like, here's kind of the things you need to touch on. So we covered having the physical action, which was the movement, having the response, a communicative response, both written and verbal, and then the tone, of course, for the selection.
And then for actually testing with autistic children, our biggest constraint was actually the time we had to complete the project in, and by the time we did get it completed to a level where we could have tested it with them, we were coming up so close to the actual presentations that we didn't have the free time to be able to go in and meet with the children so that they could actually play around with it.
Which brings a good point, actually. One of the things that Dr. Blair informed us was because they are autistic children, a lot of times you do have to get parental, or well, not a lot of times, you do have to get parental consent, and that was another time constraint, is when we got to the point where we could start having them play with it and get a lot of really good feedback, it was like it would probably take us a week just to get the okay to do it, and by then we were at the presentation.
Yeah.
So.
And
Yeah, oh yeah, lots of things. But apparently, OU K.A.T.S on campus here, they are a
Autistic school?
they're a research institute.
right.
So a lot of their parents usually are okay with it, is what we were told. But like I said, it is just really a time constraint for the most part.
Yes.
So the audience that you had that you were targeting is to had parents and teachers, but no kids.
Well, the people to purchase it that we were intending for more or less purchase were parents or teachers that wanted an added tool to be able to use with their children that they were teaching, and just a home tool in general. So that was why they were the target audience as opposed to the children, because most of the time children don't go out and purchase things for themselves, especially at that young age. So it was just more of a constraint of, well, who's actually going to be the one buying it and wanting for their child to use it? Would it be the child or the parent or teacher?
I noticed when you demoed that the other ride stepped out of frame so that
Yes.
we picked them up.
Excellent. I'm actually glad somebody picked that up.
Does the guy expose the facial recognition view?
It's not facial recognition, it's just the actual skeletals.
Is this skeletal size?
It always tracks 6 skeletons. Even if there's 1 skeleton in frame, it tracks 6. And the way it works is it selects the very first skeleton it picks up. So he moved out of frame to make sure I was the only skeleton it picked up, so there would not be that chance of it picking him up over me. It does not choose which skeleton it picks first based on distance to the camera.
So how does it?
It's just as it scans, and I'm not quite sure exactly if it goes from like right to left or left to right. I actually couldn't find any direct documentation on it, but it has something to do with the way it scans across to search for the skeletons. If we were actually really close together like this, it would register this as the left hand and that is the right hand. It wouldn't even pick up this one. It would register the 2 shoulder points.
Yeah, and it picks up interesting things sometimes too. When I was testing one time, it actually picked up a ceiling fan. and it was spinning around the fan, so
I do want to point out,
I'm not sure what happened, but
I want to point out, all of the skeletal tracking is entirely pre-programmed and done through the API. So all we did is made calls to the camera to say, give us skeleton 1's wrist, rather than say, map out the whole algorithm that comes up with the skeleton. So there are certain software limitations, but it's a new technology. It's only been out since February 1st with this SDK. This is the commercial one. Everything before that has been, as a nice term, kind of hackers that have connected it to a computer and done.
Did you guys evaluate any of those SDKs? Hacked out version?
I looked at a few, but most of them are for the actual. There's two Kinects.
360 itself.
Yeah, there's the 360 Kinect and the PC Kinect, and that's the one that just came out. And most of those were for Xbox Kinect, which they've changed a few things with the upgrade.
Microsoft did release an SDK for the Windows computer for the 360 Kinect, but it does not provide a lot of the features that are actually usable with the Kinect. So when they actually came out with the Windows Kinect, they came out with a more updated SDK that is usable with the Windows Kinect only.
Will this work on the Xbox?
Yes, it does work with the Xbox Kinect. I have tested that. Everyone who was tested that was in my class of students was actually using the Xbox Kinect. Most of the rest of the students were all using the actual Windows Kinect.
But beyond just the Kinect itself, you guys explore building it as an Xbox app instead of the regular PC app?
We did not explore it, but I have looked at the XNA Studio before, which is for the Xbox arcade games and such. I do not have experience with it, so I do not know how hard it would be to convert it to that. But it's all done. All of this is done in C#, and my understanding is that XNA Studio also uses C. You've had experience with it, and I see.
And
that's
then,
good.
for the Xbox Kinect, for converting of this, we wanted to, because it was so aimed towards teaching the parents being in control of it, that this interface that you see right here would not have been as feasible to do in the Xbox Kinect, because you would have had to go through a bunch of extra, like, you would have had to make login things so that this child couldn't then control it and just alter things as they saw fit. So it just added an extra layer of security to keep it to the Windows computer.
Yeah, let's try and move on to the next group then, but thank you very much.
Thank you guys.